welcome to this, what we think is a momentous occasion. This is our very first episode of our new show called the EV Revolution Show. Welcome.
Thanks for watching, folks.
My name is Kenneth Bokor.
I'm Trevor Page.
So our names haven't changed, just the show name has changed.
Channel hasn't changed, just a little rebranding of the show
exactly.
to really reflect our new directions and branching out a little bit. So
yes, we're two of a four-boy band. New Directions? No, that's already been done. Sorry, we got to think of something else. Well, no, thanks everybody for joining us for the new show. I think we mentioned in our last episode of the Model 3 Owners Club that we were going to do a rebranding, and maybe you can just tell folks again why we've kind of taken this step.
Well, just to remind everyone, the channel is not changing, just the name of this show. And Ken and I have been branching out, of course. We've been going out to different events and seeing different people. And we started the show originally with the Model 3 Owners Club moniker because it was kind of the name of the channel and just kind of spread out and stuff. But we find ourselves in a position now where we're going to different shows and we're kind of having to explain ourselves a little bit. So, and it's not just about Model 3, it's about the EVs in general. So we decided some time ago and started thinking about it, about rebranding the show. So as you can tell here, we have a new logo, we have a new look, new intro, new music, new everything. But the content is not going to change. It's going to be the same. So
exactly.
That's where we're
in fact, we're looking to further that content, go above and beyond where we've been, because we were a little pigeonholed before and kind of where we could get access to. I think this was going to open a lot of doors for us and spread more of the EV gospel.
Yeah, and we want to thank everyone for all the comments, the positive comments that you gave us on the very last video about the rebranding. It gives us some comfort that we made the right decision that way. So we want to thank everybody for that. So and don't forget to subscribe because that's really important. That's the whole point of the whole endeavor here. So anyways, let's get into some news.
Let's get right into this new show. So we want to start off with we'll try to find some misnomers and misinformation that's out there regarding the EV world, because as you and I do more public events and we talk to people, we come up with the same bag full of questions as far as and objections to EVs. So one of the biggest EV FUDs, and FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. One of the biggest ones out there is that when you look at the energy used to build electric cars, or the manufacturing, or what we call wheel-to-well mode of the whole life cycle of the electric car versus your traditional car today, that they just waste more energy. So it's like, well, why should I go to an EV if I'm going to waste more energy in just getting one and operating one over the same life cycle as I would an ICE car? Well, there's a study that just came out in last month in February by the Union of Concerned Scientists. This is an organization based in the United States. And the synopsis to this reported that they came out and said that EVs today are equal to an ICE car that gets about 80 miles per gallon when you look at the whole energy use and consumption model. I don't believe there are any ICE cars, solely ICE cars today that get 80 miles a gallon.
No.
I know that some of the diesels, of course, can go fairly lengthy from what they do, but they certainly don't get that kind of range. So when you look at the cradle to grave, that wheel to well, or what some people call cradle to grave aspect, that battery electric vehicles are cleaner. Now the manufacturing emissions can be a little higher depending on what kind of batteries, the complexity of the car, and so forth in building the electric car, but that gets offset within about 6 to 16 months after driving the electric car because of the lower global warming emissions that are obviously not generated by a zero emission vehicle. So when these Union of Concerned Scientists, and I would certainly, we'll have a link in the show notes for this report. I would certainly encourage you to go and have a look at it. They basically say that EVs they'll become even cleaner as well as more electricity is generated by renewable sources. So we know in the U.S. a lot of the states have taken big measures to get rid of coal producing plants. Not all states have that. So really, again, this information is dependent on state by state, country by country. But as a general sense, this is what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's important to remember that a battery electric vehicle is the only vehicle that can run on pure sunlight, which is free energy. You just have to have the infrastructure.
Yep. So you've got sunlight, we've got wind, of course, a lot more wind farming going on. Hydroelectric is still really prevalent, as is nuclear. So nuclear isn't going away anytime soon as well. So anyway, if you get that question, if you own an EV, if you're a supporter of EVs and you get that question, here's a little bit of information that you could throw back to say, look at this study, and that it is proven that EVs over the long course of their life cycle do generate less emissions and contribute to global warming than ICE vehicles do.
Yeah.
So there we go. Staying on more of a general EV topic for right now, we wanted to just bring up a couple of recent events regarding the subject of EV autonomy, and that's becoming much more hot news. We're hearing mergers and acquisitions. We just heard something about Waymo the other day, doing some more expanding their fleet. So there's a couple of events. There was the Uber self-driving vehicle that hit a pedestrian in Arizona about a week or so ago, and then the more recent Tesla Model X crash in California. Now, I just want to preempt that we're not sure that the Tesla Model X crash had anything to do with autonomy from an autopilot perspective. I don't think there's been any data released yet stating that it was running on autopilot at the time of the accident. But obviously, anytime there's a crash of a Tesla, it makes the news. And there's, and especially when there's a battery fire. And, I think I read a stat that there's something like 300 gas fires a day in the U.S. or something.
Yeah, it's about 180,000 cars in the U.S. burn on an annual basis. And it never makes the news.
It never makes the news.
Tesla, it's like the world's falling apart.
That's right. Let's just run and hide. But I think the point that we're trying to make here, folks, is that this highlights, these stories bring back the interest in the reliability, both the reliability of autonomous systems and the fallibility as well of autonomous driving technology. That they're really still a long way from that, that golden nugget of level 5. What did we used to call it? Johnny Cab experience.
Yeah, the
right?
Johnny Cab.
The Johnny Cab experience.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. And plus, of course, and we talked about this. We interviewed some law enforcement about a year or so ago. We have some connections, and we keep monitoring the regulatory and government agencies and the lawmakers and the law enforcers, and they're not ready there yet for how to even tackle driving autonomy, right? They're nowhere near. So until all that starts to flesh out, what we're going to continue to see is the technology being used more in a driver assist or in a driver aid mode. So things like Nissan's Autopilot, they're all basically there as driver assists and driver aids. Some are better, some are more complex and can provide more features and more benefits than others, but they're not there to fully replace that driver. And that's why it beeps at you and gives you naughty looks if you take your hand off the wheel for too long, right?
You do have to be careful. I do use Autopilot. You have to be on top of it. It's not perfect. I've had a couple of instances where it's acted a little weird. But it's just, you just got to be on top of things. It's not self-driving. And, we were all guilty of calling it self-driving. I've caught myself saying it a few times. It's not. It's driver assistance. So just be careful out there, folks. That's all we have to say.
And driving sometimes may sound easy on paper. I can build an algorithm to check for this, this, and this. But in the reality of the world, there are so many things going on when you're driving a car. And especially the faster the speed you're going, the more things that are going on and the less time you have to react and deal with those things. So we're still a long ways away. And that's why, regardless of what technology you have, it's still 100% the driver's responsibility to operate that vehicle safely. And, again, they're aids. So just be careful out there. And if you've got these tools, we get a lot of, I know you get a lot of emails from people asking about Autopilot updates and questions about how do I do this? It's great, it's doing this. Fantastic. That's what it's there. It's to make your driving experience better and safer because there's automatic functions.
I will be doing more videos on Autopilot as it evolves. So if you want, make sure you follow and subscribe to the channel so you watch the videos.
Yes, please do. So let's get into some EV manufacturer news. One thing that just came out recently in the last couple of days was this new startup. And I typically don't throw a lot of startups in here. Once in a while we do. We've talked about a couple. But these guys seem very serious. It's called SF Motors.
Do you think that stands for San Francisco?
It could be, because that's where they're based.
Okay.
That's where the U.S. office is, in Silicon Valley. I forget what the name is for. But they just did a big reveal on launching 2 of their electric vehicles. They call it the SF5, which is a mid-sized premium crossover, and the SF7, which is a full-size performance crossover. So obviously they're looking at a bit of a larger market. They're looking at that crossover, small SUV, mid SUV, as we've talked about. Where's the margin? Right?
Yeah, that's where it is.
In that market. So they're going after a big chunk of that market. They're claiming that around a 300-mile EPA range. They're talking about solid-state battery packs using 21700 cells, which I thought was unique because I haven't seen anybody else other than Tesla.
No, actually Faraday.
Faraday?
Yes, both Faraday and Lucid Motors both use the same format. It's just, it's just economies of scale. That's what that's
economies of scale. And they're talking, and with a thermal management strategy there. But I found the solid state kind of unique. They're really going after that market. So if they can really get something going there.
The new Fisker And it's not the Rivero,
No.
and I forget what the new one's called.
Yes.
I apologize, and I'm sure, I mean, I can just hear the comments on YouTube
It's okay.
right
You don't
now.
have $500,000 to throw at it anyway, right?
Yeah, but they're pursuing solid state as well.
Okay, good. The specs on these things, they come with anywhere from 1 to 4 100 kilowatt motors, or 100 to 400 kilowatt motors.
Wow.
So in the amped up SF7 version, you can get 400 kilowatt motors pushing over 1,000 horsepower. I don't have a torque rating, but I'm sure it's going to be up there with a rocket ship, because they're talking 0 to 60 in less than 3. That's ludicrous X speeds.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I think they're going after that space with an optional range extension type platform, a generator that produces 90 kilowatts of power if you need it to get more range. A full suite of protective autonomy systems, similar to kind of what we just talked about. And the good thing is that these guys, I believe that they're China funded with some U.S. capital, venture capital. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't dig into it. But they do have plants in the USA and China. I think their plant is in Indiana in the U.S. And they're currently testing right now powertrain mules. So they're running that. And then they expect pre-orders late this year, and they plan on 150 to 200,000 volume production, which is kind of cool. And one other thing they mentioned was their e-powertrain platform, and you'll have pictures of this behind us. They've said that they're going to make that available for anybody who wants it.
Oh, so
which means that they're going to open license this thing, I guess, or open source it, so that if I want to build a different body and different interiors, but using that platform, and their platform is modular, I can add motors as I need. That was unique.
Well, it's one of the advantages. If you think about it, if you look at what Tesla's doing, and some of the newer manufacturers are really getting on board now, the skateboard platform lends itself so well to all kinds of different ways. I mean, even Faraday Future, when they announced their car, it was like, oh, it's a modular platform. We can stretch it. We can make it bigger. I mean, that's
so combining that with a nice safety cage car part, and you get great handling, you get low center of gravity, right? You get all those features. Sure. And I believe that these cars, at least the SF7, has rear steering as well, like rear.
Oh, really?
And I forget. Gee, it's been a while since I've heard that, because there was a couple of street cars.
It's funny you mentioned that. I wonder how good that would be on the Model X, being such a big car.
To get tighter the turn and more,
just for parking.
And they used to just go ever so. They don't have to go a lot, but just ever so.
What was it? The old Acura back in the
was.
early 90s.
I know. That's what I'm trying to think of.
Yeah,
if anybody knows that, send us an email or a tweet.
There was an Acura. There was an Acura. A Honda,
there was.
A Prelude. Oh, it was the Prelude. That's
was
what
it the Prelude?
It was the Prelude.
Okay.
Like 94, I think
that
it was.
Had active rear steering.
Yeah, it had an optional steering. Yeah. Anyways.
So pretty cool. Keep an eye on these guys. We'll keep following them. Tesla's come out with a couple new announcements, or more announcements, specifically focusing on the Model 3. There's a recent Bloomberg report that just came out the last couple of days saying that Tesla is trying to get to 300 units of production per day. They're asking people to kind of come in, or maybe change shifts, or do something different, or I don't know. They pulling them off of SNX lines?
Well, they slowed SNX production to take a lot more people and put them on the lines. Now, what we don't know at this point from the report, I mean, it seems to have come from the Gigafactory. We still don't know where the bottleneck is. Is it the Gigafactory? Because, look, we're at the end of March now. They did say that this new battery production line that they developed in Germany was supposed to be here. We don't know. I mean, Tesla's secretive, so we don't know exactly where things are going. But if I remember correctly, and I don't have the math in front of me, but I think you have to reach about 350 units a day to get to the 2,500 mark.
Okay.
They are currently at 200. I don't know how old this email is. It wasn't really reported as far as the email was.
The Bloomberg report was only a couple of days ago that I saw.
Yeah, but when they got the email or when
true.
It was dated, I don't have an exact date, and if I find it, I'll put it in the link. So they're pushing quite hard to try and get to that magic number. And this email comes from Doug Field. He's the chief engineer at Tesla on the Model 3 program, not all the cars, but on the Model 3 program. And he wants to prove the haters wrong. That was kind of the consensus of the email.
Good.
So having said that, we're getting towards the end of the month here. The consensus is they're not going to hit their 2,500 cars per week mark yet. However, if they're getting this close, I would suspect probably by the end of next month they will have finally reached that number.
So they're around the 1,100 per week mark around.
So they're still producing cars. They're delivering them. We'll get into some other news here about Canada here in a second. So it's definitely spreading. But Tesla's behind on their projections, and it's kind of it's sad to see that, but it is improving.
So they're about a quarter behind, because here we are end of March, and they were hoping to get 2,500 by this time, and then 5,000 later on. So
that's right.
So, but they're getting there. It seems like they're about halfway to that mark. almost halfway to that mark.
Yeah.
So that's good.
I think the machine that builds the machine has proven itself to be a little hairier beast
Throw a
than
little
they
more
imagined.
oil and money at it, and off would you go. Lubricate
It's unfortunate, but
That's it.
I mean, the nice
Yeah.
thing is that once they actually get this machine well oiled and really humming, then they'll really be able to churn out the numbers. And if they don't mess with it too much, they should be able to replicate it for other cars down the road. But Tesla being Tesla, they can't leave things alone. They always got to mess with things. So, anyways.
And obviously, since they are ramping up production, they are opening up new markets now for orders.
Yep.
And we've been inundated with orders that here in Canada, that people that aren't owners are starting to able
the
to order.
amount of tweets and emails that I got from people who
you and I got a few, and I don't get that many.
It's unbelievable. I mean, people that don't follow the show, that are not on the forum or whatever the case may be. I got hundreds of emails from people all over Canada that said, "I finally got my Model 3 email, but I'm waiting."
Waiting for all-wheel drive.
Yeah, and I don't have an exact number, but I'm going to throw a
Bad
number
Hungarian?
out there.
That's you.
I'm going to say about 3/4 of the people out there are waiting for all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
So, and that's fine. The other portion a lot of people are waiting for is the standard range battery. Now, the standard range battery is not going to be here till 2019. The other question I'm getting a lot is, I want the standard range and I want all-wheel drive. How long am I going to have to wait? Well, I think the clincher there is standard battery. That is just not going to happen, I don't think, until 2019.
I thought it said mid or late 2018 if you wanted all-wheel drive. So you could get the standard battery with all-wheel drive sooner than you could just get standard battery.
Yeah, but Tesla being Tesla, you never know what that thinks. So that's kind of the unicorn car.
Exactly.
So be prepared to wait a little longer. So, but there's some other wrenches in the works here, of course, for some of us in Ontario, which is
And so we do know that, let's get to that in just a sec. Obviously, with orders opening now, though, I think it's fair to say that we should start seeing Canadian deliveries in about 3 to 5 weeks. So let's say end of May.
Yeah, I'll say end of May to be safe.
Yeah, or before.
Yeah, and transmit time. So it shouldn't be too much longer. You'll start seeing Model 3s on Canadian.
And I know you're trying to hook up to somebody here locally that gets one of the first ones in the
Yeah,
ETA,
you know what? I'm going to put it out there again because not a lot of you follow on Twitter. If you are in the Greater Toronto area and you get a VIN assignment, and when you get closer and you get an actual delivery date, please get a hold of me. I would love to come out and film your delivery. So I'm looking for somebody as early in the queue to be able to do a video to show everyone what a Model 3 delivery looks like in the Great
Canada.
White North.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So please reach out.
So that should be happening soon. And again, because we're on the topic of Ontario specifically, we keep encouraging our Ontario brethren here to continue to check the Ministry of Transportation for Ontario, or MTO, website for the Electric Hybrid Vehicle Incentive Program. I have to make sure I get that right now because they changed it. It's EHVIP now.
Yes, I know.
Website. My cautious note on this is I would not click the order button until I see the Model 3 on the website if I'm concerned about getting a rebate. If you don't care if you're going to get a rebate at all, then go ahead and order and do whatever you want. I would just personally wait until I see it on the website before I would do anything as a buyer, as a consumer, just because the program, it's got its ups and downs. And my understanding, the way I read the program, is that once it's on the website, until they announce something different, and up until that date, you're covered.
Yeah.
So like the change they just did with the S and X's when they took them off, basically, because they all are over 75,000. But they did say up until March 9th or March 8th, if you ordered it.
If your order was in there and you have to take delivery before September 7th, you're granted on that. You're covered.
Yeah.
As far as the Model 3 is concerned. Now, I will say this. I do know that Tesla has submitted the paperwork to the Ministry of Transportation in Ontario. However, the Ministry of Finance, which is the governing agency that actually handles the whole program and pays out the actual money, has to approve that paperwork. So that's where the problem lies at this point. They're waiting for approval from the Ministry of Finance before the MTO actually approves the car and puts it out on the website. So having said that, you also have to be careful, because if you're concerned about getting the rebate and it's not on the list, I would reach out to Tesla and ask them, because if you confirm your order and you pay them an extra $3,200 down deposit that you must put down when you order the car, you may not get that back if you're counting on the rebate and you cancel your order. So you're going to be out $3,200.
Very good point.
Please be careful.
Very good point.
Yeah.
So I would confirm with Tesla, but I would again be a little careful on what they say, because they're trying to sell cars. Not knocking them, but people are people. I would try to get confirmation from the MTO if you're really that concerned. Again, we expect it to be on the site anytime. It could be within the next couple of days, could be the end of April, end of May, but it should be there soon. So I don't think you need to panic and say, gee, if I don't click it now, I'm going to miss the boat.
I will put this out there. I am actively, I have software, and I'm actively monitoring the website. The moment it gets posted, I will tweet it out.
Me too. I have hardware. It's called a finger on an enter button. I just keep pressing, the enter button again.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are monitoring that. So, and we'll tweet about when we see it on.
I have very high confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the Model 3, according to the rules, meets every specification.
Yep,
There's no reason it won't go on the list.
Oh, it will.
And I have very high confidence that it will make the list. It's just a matter of when. So you got this dichotomy where you got people that, I'm counting on the rebate, I want to order the car right as soon as possible, but I don't want to be out of the money, and and it's not on the list. What am I going to do? So we're just saying, just be cautious. I mean, look, let's face it. Tesla at this point is not making custom cars. They're making inventory. So if you say, I want blue with the arrow wheels, well, they're just going to match up with something that's inventory. It's on its way here anyways. So it's not like, waiting a few days is going to make you
and is that
wait
because,
another 3 months.
That's because they're telling you 4 to 6 weeks after once you click the button.
Well, they got to get it from California up to here, and I know that it takes about 2 weeks on a carrier to get up here.
Yeah.
So anyways, we're not saying that if you wait a week for confirmation or 2 weeks means that you have to wait another 6 months for your car. That's not the case.
Right.
So anyways.
Good point. Very good point. So yeah, please just monitor that yourself and do what you wish. But now we don't know the longevity of the program. That's the other side to that coin. So I would just keep watching it. If you're going to order a Model 3 and you're going to click that button, as soon as it goes up on that website and you want that rebate, then go ahead and order it and feel safe there. Yeah. If you're sitting on the fence to order because you might be wanting to wait for all-wheel drive and you're concerned about the incentive, that could be another story. So you got to keep your eyes open on the news.
We do have an election coming up, and that's the other question we're getting a lot too. Is are the rebates going to survive the election?
We don't know. Yeah.
We really don't know, and I don't think that the moment a new party gets elected, that all of a sudden everything just drops off the face of the earth. I mean, these things take time to be phased out. So as long as you put your order in, and let's say all-wheel drive shows up the first week of June, the election happens, you might still be okay. So
in a reasonable world, that makes sense.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So
but
anything can happen
in the government.
Yeah.
And one other quick announcement on the Model 3 is that Tesla mentioned that right-hand drive production is estimated to start in mid-2019. So for our friends across the pond and in Australia and other countries that use right-hand drive, sorry, you're going to have to wait another year at least. Yeah, I know it's been tough. You guys have been waiting a long time. So that's what's going on with Tesla. Let's switch gears into VW world.
Wait, before we go, did we want to mention about the recall?
The recall is a Tesla S recall. You wanted to mention
that.
I
mean, Tesla just put out a recall notice for Model S's prior to model year 2016, and it relates to 3 bolts that hold the power steering unit onto the power steering rack. Now, we do happen to have a Tesla owner here in Ontario that I've spoken to. And he experienced this problem. He got up in the morning, got into his car, powered it on, turned the wheel, and it heard a thunk and a clunk, and the car would not move, and his wheels wouldn't move, so he flatbedded it to Tesla. And it turns out that because he had I think it was a 2013 or 2014, I'm sorry, Stefan, I can't remember your model year, but they had mounted the power steering unit to the rack using aluminum bolts. And of course, with our Canadian winters, the salt and stuff had gotten in there and had corroded the bolts to the point where they sheared right off. So the solution, of course, is to replace them with steel or stainless steel bolts. And anyway, so this gentleman had to go in and get the whole power steering rack replaced. They would not replace just the bolts or the motors. So it was very expensive. It was over $3,000 to get this thing done. So having said that, there have been other reports in the United States in the Northeast that this happened too. To make a long story short, Tesla's finally issued a recall. They will fix the problem. So if you have this issue, just wait for the email from Tesla or reach out to your Tesla service center to get this thing sorted out. But it's a pretty big deal. Now, I want to say this. Cars since the facelift don't have this because they changed the steel bolts. So, aluminum is pretty soft. And
yeah.
So anyways,
surprising.
Just rest assured. So we just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
So anyways, moving along.
So hopefully that helps.
Yep.
Back to VW. So just quickly on the e-Golf, it's another car that we've been tracking, and we've done a review of it, and we've seen it a few times. Great car. Unfortunately, they just aren't building enough of those. So the sales for these things globally have been so strong that it just seems that VW is sold out of them. They claim that sales increased 3 times over last year, which is not what they were expecting. I'm not sure why, but because it is a good car and EVs are picking up. But also with the new ID platform that we've talked about before, and those models starting to come out as early as late next year, and they have to switch and plan for that. We're I think very doubtful in our opinion that we're going to see any more e-Golfs, any new e-Golfs being produced, other than for orders that are already in. And if you
because they'll be switching to the
because they'll be switching, yeah. I think that I don't think they're going to make any more. I know personally, in talking to many people, that you can't get a new one in Canada. They
I
just
tried.
aren't there. He tried. I've been looking. A lot of people that I talked to have been looking. I've been bumping into people all over the place, and they said, "No, my name's on a list, but there's no guarantee."
I missed out on one because somebody had had just picked up theirs, and they had another one. A customer had it was sold, and a customer canceled, but it got snapped up immediately.
Yeah,
so
yeah, these things are gone.
Yeah.
So unless you're on a list and somebody cancels an order, it's the only reason you're going to get one. So, but too bad. Good car. So for those people that have one, we'd like to see them come out to more events. So please bring them out and show them off, because a lot of people may not be aware of these. They're good cars. On that ID platform, VW just announced that they are going to begin production of the prototypes next month. And they'll start flogging these things around, driving, testing, all that kind of stuff. Of course, it's based on their MEB Modular Electrification Toolkit platform. General production won't start for well over a year yet, till November 2019, where they're going to start with a hatchback that will only be a Euro spec car, from my understanding.
Probably
won't be available.
Here
the hatchback isn't going to be sold in the U.S., but the other ones, their Cross and their Buzz models, will be in the U.S. when they bring those out. Like a crossover, and then I think the Buzz is a smaller car. They're all going to be built out of their Zwickau plant, if I pronounce that properly, in Germany, and they're going to produce up to 1,500 of these a day, followed by plants in China and the USA. Seems to be a pattern there. A lot of companies investing in Chinese plants and operations, and they want to volume 100,000 units in the first year. So again, VW's already stated they want to produce 1 million EVs by 2022 or something.
I just hope the production car looks as good as the prototype does.
Prototypes look good.
I really like the look of that car.
They look good. They seem to.
I mean, then again, I like the i3, so I'm
you like the i3. You're one of those guys. But moving on. No, it's okay. So staying with BMW then.
Well,
good segue.
Good segue.
They just announced their i4. There are a lot of stuff coming out of the Geneva Motor Show that's going on. We're wrapping up. Their i4 concept. It's a 211 to 270 EPA range full battery electric vehicle. They target to release this in 2020. Right now it's a concept car, but we know, especially like the i3 as well and the i8, that most of their concepts tend to be what you see in the final revision. So it's a neat looking car.
I like.
Won't be cheap, that's for sure.
Oh no.
No other information given, but we'll continue to following that. Now, on staying with BMW, on the same note, they've also come back and announced that they're going to push back EV production. They're going to move it to 2020. So I think they were looking to start producing newer models as early as later this year or into 2019, but they're going to push that back to 2020, and it's because of economics. They just, in their opinion, they're not generating high enough profit margins yet, predominantly due to the cost of batteries and battery packs yet.
Absolutely.
As we talked about, it's still coming down, and that economies of scale. So they said, look, we're going to start announcing some concept cars, but until we get into full production, we got to wait till our costs come down on these things, and that we can make some higher profits or profit margins that we need to sustain. However, it doesn't change their plans to commit to the BEV or the battery electric Mini that we saw at the Toronto Auto Show there. That will be produced in late 2019 out of the UK, if I remember correctly, and also their X3 version, a battery-only X3 version, which will be coming in 2020. So those are still on track for their target dates, and then we'll see what happens. A little slower for BMW, I think, but from what we're seeing from a lot of manufacturers, 2020, as we've been talking about for the last year and a half, it seemed to be one of the magic numbers.
Started out of the gate, I mean, with the i8 and the i3. I mean, set the i8 apart because it's not really a pure battery electric car. But I think in a lot of ways, the i3, if you look at it, as nice a car it is, it was really a technology demonstration as far as the CFRP, the carbon reinforced plastics, and some of the new manufacturing techniques and stuff, till they got their, kind of their feet wet. But now they feel that, they're ready to take the next step. Unfortunately, of course, when you're starting out with this stuff is expensive. So keep in mind, they're not like Tesla. They're not building their own batteries. They're using Samsung or LG or whatever the case may be. So
exactly. Staying in the European brands, Audi, we mentioned about the e-tron before on previous shows from a concept perspective. Well, now they've come out of the gate and given some more stats to their volume, all battery electric SUV, with an estimated 310 mile. That's NEDC, so I'm guessing in the low twos EPA.
250.
250-ish EPA range. The thing about this, though, is now you can actually place an order on this. So they're taking orders. They're aiming for late 2018 production start, with deliveries in 2019 being in Europe first, and then coming to rest of the world. They've got, I couldn't get a number out of this article in investigating, but they just state they've got tens of thousands of people interested in this car. So I guess that have put a deposit down. Mm-hmm. Seems to be the trend now, put a deposit down on a car you don't get for 2 years, but that's another story. Current testing, they've got 250 prototypes out there, similar to what Jaguar did with the I-Pace, where they had all these cars around the world testing different formats. Mm-hmm. And they plan, Audi as a whole, again, under that whole German umbrella group, plans 20 electrified models, and with half of them being battery electric only vehicles by 2025. So they are putting all their feet into the game.
The Volkswagen Group is really pushing hard for this.
Audi e-tron is going to be a nice car. I mean, Audi quality is good already. I think it's going to be a decent car. Mm-hmm. Should have everything on it. And staying in the luxury brand, Mercedes-Benz have announced their EQC model, which is an all-electric battery crossover model. Boy, this segment is getting hammered.
Man, this segment's hot. This is where they're all going.
It's where the margins are, right?
Well, that's what people are buying.
That's what they're buying. True, that's what they're buying. It'll go on sale in early 2019. It's got an estimated, again, NEDC number of about 311 miles, so around the as you're saying, 240, 220 EPA range for that particular beast. It's got an estimate of 0 to 62 in less than 5 seconds, and Mercedes is going to build these in the U.S. out of their Vance, Alabama plant. Mm-hmm. So good to help with the U.S. economy there, and they are taking reservations if you're interested, but sorry, you got to live in Norway. So maybe get Bjorn to throw some reservations your way, and he can help you out for $2,500.
I'm not sure. Test it when
I think it's U.S. dollars. I don't know what the deposit is, but it's $2,500 something. Yeah. So there you go. But good to see progress. Let's jump to the Asian folks under Nissan. Nissan announced their Leaf IMX Concept vehicle recently at a couple of car shows. It's a new SUV platform, I believe. It might use the Leaf platform, but
I do believe it does use the Leaf.
But it's definitely a new SUV. Okay, with NEDC at 373, so again that 225 seems to be a common type of range now. Yeah, that low to mid 200s, offering dual motor all-wheel drive. And part of that announcement as well with this is that Nissan plans to build new pure electric or battery electric only vehicles by 2022. So they're going to have a whole more product line to choose from in the next few years. So staying with Nissan, let's talk briefly about the Nissan Leaf, a little bit more updates to that, to the new 2018 Leaf. As of the end of February, Nissan announced that their current sales were closing in on about 10,000 per month. Wow. Which estimates about 100,000 this year. That's up from the 60,000 number we reported on a little while ago. So these things are selling very fast. I saw an article, something about 1 every 12 seconds in Europe or something like that. I don't know. It was a funky article. And they also just won the 2018 World Green Car Award out of the New York Auto Show, which is going on, or could have just wrapped up this week, which is the first battery electric to win that particular award. It was up against the BMW 530e Performance and the Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid. Some good news coming out of Nissan.
I was very impressed with the Leaf. I had a chance to drive it about a week ago. A friend came by, and I was very impressed with that. So, if those of you are waiting for Model 3 or want to consider some kind of alternative, I think that's the best alternative to the Model 3, personally.
It definitely has a great value to cost proposition. Yeah, it does. But, I'm sure people that are watching this show are going, hey, Ken, what about Rapidgate? What about Rapidgate? That's all I'm seeing now is Rapidgate.
All right. Well, you've been following this. So
I've been following it.
Educate us, Ken.
Let's educate you. We certainly can't. I don't like the name of that, but that's what's come out, really? So that's what's sticking. But everybody now in the last week or so in the EV community is talking about Rapidgate. In fact, Bjorn just finished driving himself crazy for 2 days of driving a Leaf to look at the numbers to try to get more data, doing his 16-hour driving stunts to help Nissan, I guess. But basically what happens, folks, is that there's a report of the charging slowdown, so the input of the charge slowing down from a rapid charge. Now these use CHAdeMO, so they use DC fast chargers, and most CHAdeMO fast chargers that are out there today have a capacity of up to 50 kilowatt of power, which is similar to CCS, right, as far as output goes.
Yes.
And the reports that have come in is that after the second successive DC fast charger, the input or the charging input tends to slow down. And it can drop from somewhere around the 45 to 44 kilowatt input charge down to 22. So it can more than half, or about half of that rate. It doesn't sound huge, but when you factor in time that you have to sit there to charge, it can more than double your charging times. So some YouTubers in Europe, and there's including a guy named Jonathan Porterfield. And he documented this and discovered that the slowdown was because of the charging. So every time he would rapid charge, it would slow down the charging amount coming in. Now, there's a gentleman by the name of Thomas, and he runs the Lemon Tea Leaf YouTube channel. Shout out to Thomas. He and I have been talking regularly now over the last couple of weeks, and he did a video that put out some stats, and I think you'll have this picture behind us. And as you can see, it definitely seems to be temperature related. So
that does not surprise me in the least.
Yeah, the numbers on the left side of those columns, you have 0 C, that's temperature in Celsius, and these are battery temperatures, then temperatures in Fahrenheit. That's what that means, those two columns, and then you have your kilowatt charging input rate. So if you see the correlation that at 24 degrees C, the battery charges at 45 kilowatts. As it warms up, the charging slows down, or the amount of charge the battery receives slows down, and it can be significant down to 22. He's using Leaf Spy Pro, and I think most Leaf owners pick up that application and throw it on a smartphone with an OBD2 kind of dongle thing interface, and because you can really monitor the stats, because it seems that Nissan is very conservative in even the what we call the guessometer or the GOM, right? As I think Teslas are much more accurate, but Nissan seems to be more of a guess on their range, and there seems to be about a 10% buffer. So it may be showing 10%, but you actually have about 20%.
I see.
And I think they do that is because they don't really want anybody to run it down to 0.
Okay.
They want you to start getting alarms and flashes and beeps at 10% versus at 15% versus when it actually gets to 5 kind of thing.
Well, it makes perfect sense.
Makes sense there. So that data, again, shows that it definitely is temperature related. So that the pack isn't cooling down. It's cooling down the way it normally cools down. And that seems to be a safety mechanism or intenseful programming by Nissan to alleviate any damages to the battery by slowing down the charging to keep the temperature down. I've reached out to Nissan Canada, and their comments to me is that they're waiting to get some feedback from their Nissan Global One Voice, which I guess is their communications arm, and that they'll get back to me soon. But they've acknowledged our show looking to that. And as another side note, I'm also meeting with Nissan execs in a couple of weeks, later on in April. And I'll see what more information I can get out of them. I'm going to a Canadian launch event of the Nissan Leaf here in Canada, and I'll be doing some videoing and some interviewing, and we'll be able to present the Leaf in our format as well and give you a quick overview and a review. Not a full review, because there's so many things out there now, like every day. I don't need to do a 45-minute review of the car, but I'll give you some highlights and some of my thoughts on it so that you can make an opinion. So we'll see what Nissan does on that. We don't know. But as soon as we get more information, we will report, as everybody else and their mother is reporting on now, this Rapidgate. Do you have any comments on that? I don't know, have you been following it at all?
Just cursorily. I mean, you're the guy on the Nissan stuff because you're an owner. So,
well, yeah, funny you say that. So let's dive right into that. So since we're on the topic of the Leaf, I've been asked a lot of, hey, when am I ordering my Model 3? When am I doing that? So look, folks, for personal reasons, which I'm not going to get into, I've decided to order a new Nissan Leaf, and I should be taking delivery of my Leaf in late May, early June. It's going to be a nice balance because Trevor's got his X, and I've got the Leaf, and we'll have 2 EVs in our fleet, if you want to call them that, in the EV Revolution fleet. And the good thing is we'll have different sides of the EV coin to look at, and perspectives and experiences as we get out there with our EVs and learn them ourselves. You've learned a lot more, I think, now in the last 3 or 4 months than you did before, probably.
Everyday use is different than substantial. Anecdotal.
But that makes it good because you have just a larger fountain of knowledge that you can talk to people on and explain, like real day-to-day stuff, right?
Yeah, and the day-to-day. I was just talking to somebody the other day that had a whole bunch of questions. I said, well, look, you live in the same city, come on over and we'll talk. And Yeah, and I was explaining to him that ownership is different. I mean, you can read stuff all day, but when you actually experience the vehicle, you learn very quickly, and you adapt very quickly to some of the shortcomings that an EV does have. I mean, they're not perfect, but for day-to-day use, it's never an issue.
And for my use case scenario, the Leaf fits perfectly.
Well, that's what's important, right?
I don't typically need a super long range car. This will be the third car that we have.
So you're not waiting for performance or all-wheel drive, right?
I am not waiting for performance or all-wheel drive. I think EVs have good performance as they are. I'm not a lead-foot driver. I'm very conservative. I think as you get older, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just me.
My wife says the same thing about me. You got this fast car and you drive.
She's the fast driver.
She says, you got this fast car and you drive like a grandfather.
She is.
I'm like, whatever.
So hope we get your continued support, and we're very excited about both the new look in the show and what we've done from our personal decisions and as we continue to move forward into the EV world. We know that we're starting to see more interest in manufacturers talking to us and looking at us and for us to get into more areas and more information, and we do want to expand the show reach as well and continue with public outreach. I think you asked that last show, and we actually got hit up by an organization locally here that wants us potentially to come out and speak at a conference. So
I'll mention this though too, because we're actually entering the spring months now. It's going to start getting warmer. We're going to be doing EV events and car shows and stuff. So I'll just put it out there. I will be at the Barry Cullen in Guelph on April 14th. That's in Guelph, Ontario. It's a car dealer in the Guelph Auto Mall.
The GM car dealer, right?
Yes, and they will have volts and bolts, and they've invited a whole bunch of people to come out. It doesn't matter what kind of EV you have, so hopefully it'll be a nice, bright, sunny day. So if you want to come out and say hi, that's on Saturday, April 14th at Barry Cullen Motors in Guelph. So I hope to see some of you out there. Make sure you hit me up and say hi.
And all these things are good, whether it's a GM dealer or a Ford dealer or whoever doing them. It's all about just getting the word out there, right? Creating that interest in potential EV adoption that somebody may not have thought of before. Yeah. So it's all good.
And I love meeting people, so that's always fun.
Love meeting people. Myself too, and I'm actually organizing a meetup in the UK. I'm going to be out in the Wales area in the middle towards the end of April, and I've reached out to a few of the YouTuber guys that do EVs out there. We've got potentially James and Kate, we've got Nick, we've got a few other people that are interested in potentially meeting up. One of the things maybe to talk about, obviously, what the status of is the Leaf at that time, because the Leaf's really popular in the UK and Europe. It's just going crazy out there. But I'm hoping to get a whole bunch more people. It won't be something that I'll tape as an episode. Probably take a few pictures and maybe just and we'll talk about it in one of our future shows. But I think it'll be cool, just as you've done in your meetups with some of the guys in California in the past, just share information, ideas, and just talk a shop and see what their challenges, what they're going through, and what they're seeing. So it should be fun.
Yep.
So for you guys that are watching this, that I send an invite out to, I just followed that up recently. Please let me know if you're interested in meeting up, and I'll get you more information. And that's it.
Yeah, no mailbag this week.
No mailbag.
We're going to follow up on the next show because of everything being new and stuff. We just don't have enough time. But if you have any questions, you can send them in. And our email address is evrevolutionshow@gmail.com. The old email address, by the way, still works. So if you have that on file, do that. But please change your bookmarks. The email address, once again, is evrevolutionshow@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter. And the handle is EVRev Show. That's EVREV Show, and that's a shared Twitter account, by the way. You can still follow us on our respective accounts, but this is the new account that you should be following us on.
And I want to add, I really won't be using my Kenneth Bocor Twitter that much. I've been basically just using it for EV news. Yeah. But now with the new @EVRev Show Twitter, I'm going to jump onto that and start just using that. I wasn't really using Twitter that much personally before. I just wanted to use it to help continue communications from the shows.
Now, in light of the whole Facebook situation, we're not going to be doing anything for the EV Revolution Show on Facebook. We've just decided, you know what, there's just too many social platforms out there. We really prefer Twitter, so that's where we're going to be there. And if you're interested, we're not really having a website dedicated for this, so you can just go to the Model 3 Owners Club on there. You can reach both of us on there and follow. Yep. And lastly, don't forget, we really appreciate if you take a look at our Patreon campaign. You can find that at patreon.com/Model 3 Owners Club, although we will be changing that to the EV Rev Show. So anyways, it still works either way.
Yep.
So
we appreciate the same sources.
Yeah, exactly. So big shout out to all the producers. They're the ones that make everything happen. And lastly, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's the only way we can grow this thing. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and tell all your friends and family. Anyways, that's it for this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.
For sure. Take care.
Thanks for watching.
Take care, everybody.
See ya.